Well, hello. Welcome to another session of Ask the Pastor. You're listening to 97.1 FM Hope Radio. And this is a conversation we've been having about intergenerational ministry, how to make sure that the faith is being passed on to each generation. And so we've been talking about different aspects of that and how do we really implement that in a practical way into our churches? How do we encourage families in that direction? We know that almost everybody really cares about that deeply, and yet it can be difficult. It seems like it doesn't always happen. And so how do we ensure as much as possible within our churches that we're encouraging families and empowering parents and all those things? So anyway, before we get into this session, introductions, I'm Pastor Jon out at Mitchell Berean Church, and I'm joined by my friends here today.
I'm Jon Mulholland at WestWay in Scottsbluff.
And I'm Kiley Callaway at Northfield in Gearing.
So we kind of ended the last session, and we kind of want to pick up there again and continue.
Bonus session.
Yes, it's a bonus session. So we ended with a reading of, in Psalms, was 77?
78.
Or 78.
Part of Psalm 78.
About the responsibility, really, that God has, that he certainly built into the nation of Israel. But really, we could go back and say he built this into the creation, the way in which he created us as human beings, the way we reproduce, the way that we knit together, and where this knowledge and how this knowledge and all this is supposed to be passed on. It really is in the family. And so why don't you read that again, John, the focus.
So Psalm 78, failed family discipleship. There are 72 verses.
Yeah.
I'm just going to read that. I'm going to start at the beginning and just read through verse 4.
Yeah.
Which is where we ended up. All my people, listen to my instructions. Open your ears to hear what I'm saying, for I will speak to you in a parable. I will teach you hidden lessons from our past, stories we've heard and known, stories our ancestors handed down to us. We will not hide these truths from our children. We will tell the next generation about the glorious deeds of the Lord, about his power and his mighty wonders. Yeah. So, there's a, I want to say it's in 1 Corinthians 12. Paul talks about the reason, we have stories from the past. He says they're written as an example to us, and I think I'm getting the order wrong. He talks about how they're written as an example and they're written as a warning. Mm-hmm. This is, I tell my people that I basically have 4 sermons that I tell just on repeat. This is one of those sermons, stories from the past to warn us, and stories as an example. I think that's what the psalmist is honing in on. I will teach you hidden lessons from our past. So the things that happened, the historical things that happened to the Jewish people, were actual historic events. These are literal. These things happened, and they are parables. They're metaphors. They're teaching a deeper spiritual reality, and that is we don't want to just tell them, we came across the Red Sea and blah 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 blah. Mm-hmm. We want to tell them what that means, right? And that's kind of our job as pastors, is not just to tell people what the Bible says, but what it means. Yeah. And I just love verse 4. We will not hide these truths from our children. See, that tells me that there's a tendency in our sinful nature to not.
Yeah, well, and like I said last time, there's this message to parents: you should not influence your children in the arena of what their faith is, what they're going to believe in. They need to decide for themselves. Yeah. And of course, we're getting into this in a lot of areas where children are being given the responsibility, whatever you want to call it, to choose a lot about who they are. But this is a cultural value. I know people that, my oldest daughter, she grew up, went to college, and then after college, she was working a job, and she was around her peers, and there would be, conversations maybe about things happening in the world related to faith, related to politics or whatever. And I remember she said, "Dad, there's this girl in my office or at work," and she said, growing up, we never talked about religion or faith. We never talked about politics, in our home. Never came up. And to which my daughter said, that's all we talked about in my home growing up. Like, I don't know how, she just couldn't relate. But I know there's a lot of people, your faith is private. It causes conflict. So does Paul. And I'm not saying but these things that are really important to our lives and how they work, and they're important if we're going to hand it off to the next generation, then we have to talk about them. We have to be comfortable with it.
Yeah.
But parents need to be empowered and encouraged. There's a way to do it that works. There's a way that doesn't. Like, how do you approach, influencing your children without embittering them? How do you do a good job of impressing things on them? And one of them is you don't make a decision not to talk about these things. And so...
So you just use that word impress.
Yes.
So the NLT does... flip back to Deuteronomy. If I know my Bible. Repeat them again and again. Like that is... In other translations, and I think in the Hebrew it says, impress them on your children.
Yes.
And the concept of that is, like I have a clay tablet. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to impress. I'm going to rub on that clay tablet with a sharp tool with an implement, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to impress that into the clay tablet so that it looks like what I want it to, and that's going to require time. Like I'm going to impress that on them, and like that is that's our role.
Yeah.
And I think that we just live out the Christian faith.
Right, but if we go back to Deuteronomy, can't we read that and just find some just practical things that parents can do day to day that are simple?
Yes.
I believe it does.
Love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your strength. You must commit yourselves wholeheartedly to these commands that I'm giving you today.
Yeah.
So if I am not a disciple of Jesus Christ, I don't mean I go to church. I don't mean, but I go to small group. But I give, but I serve. If I am not a disciple of Jesus Christ, I am not going to pass on the faith of Jesus Christ to my children. I'm not going to.
Yep.
It starts with, so the way, I have all this written down.
I have to be a disciple.
Yeah.
Personal. This is a personal thing.
Yes.
Not just a Christian.
A disciple.
A disciple.
That's right.
This starts with me.
Yeah.
If I'm not a disciple of Jesus Christ, committed myself wholeheartedly, that doesn't mean perfectly, like those things we talked about off air.
Yep.
But I have to be a disciple of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Repeat them again and again to your children. This is so practical. Talk about them when you're on the road, or when you're at home, when you're on the road, when you're going to bed, and when you're getting up.
Home, road, and going to bed.
So when I go to bed at night, I need to have some sort of religious interaction with my children. Pray with them.
Awesome concept.
It's amazing.
Yes.
So we still, at our house, we swap each night. So like one night I'll get my daughter, and then next night I get my son. Is we still put them to bed. She's, hopefully she doesn't watch this, but she's 15 years old,
But
right?
she hates that.
Yeah. No,
She probably likes it.
She
I know
loves it.
She loves it.
And she has a prayer that she prays
Yep.
religiously. She's memorized it, but
Yeah.
it's hers,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And then I pray for them. And now my wife takes it a step further because she loves to talk, but she'll talk with them and all that. But we've been doing that since birth, and until they tell us, we're too old for this, we'll probably still do it. But we do that religiously.
So but this ought to help us. What we ought to be encouraged to do for us and parents when you're at home. So here's the deal: if you're sitting at home and you're sitting in your living room, and all of you are doing this,
get the Bible app.
You are. This is what you're discipling them into, is looking at their device.
Yes.
Right?
It's good.
What am I talking about with my kids when I'm sorry, I don't mean your idol. What am I talking about with my kids when I'm at home?
Right.
What are we talking about when we're on the road? Does everybody just retreat into their devices the second we get into our car?
Right.
Or are we using that time to intentionally disciple? You got to decide that as parents. So so personal. I have to be a disciple.
Yes.
I have a practical responsibility to my children, and what if I don't have kids, to the next generation. And then the last piece: tie them on your hands, wear them on your forehead as reminders, write them on the doorpost of your house and on your gates.
Now, what does that mean?
That's missional.
What does that mean for us practically?
That means I'm going to get a Jesus Fish bumper sticker and put it on my car. No, it means that I am going to live out my faith in the marketplace.
Yep.
That means I'm going to, this is like hands, right? In Scripture, when we read the word hands, we're going to take actions. We're going to do Christian things. We're going to love them. We're going to serve them. We're going to give generously. We're going to do Christian things. And then wear them on your forehead as reminders. It means our minds are going to be oriented towards God. Write them on your doorpost of your house and on your, we are going to proclaim Jesus with our lives publicly, not by holding up a sign.
Right.
Well, not only by, it might be that. For some people, it might be that. But we're going to demonstrate that we have committed ourselves wholeheartedly to God's commands in the public square. This is so
easy, but so deep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is it.
Well, it is pretty simple. And in the breakdown, we just had a marriage retreat, and we talked about every one of the things we talk about in all of this. There is, and people need to realize there's an attack against every piece of it in our world and our culture. And that is a spiritual attack. So we have an order that God created things with. He created, the order is, as I taught in that is God, husband, wife, children. That's the order. So if you have husband, the man in the home, is not connected to God in a way that he's following God, he's learning and growing spiritually, then there's a breakdown in the rest of the structure in terms of this whole handoff. I mean, mom can be really serious about following Jesus and getting the family to church. And,
you know what?
And
thank God for that.
Yes.
How many families do we have in our churches where mom is the spiritual leader?
Yes.
Sorry.
However,
yeah.
that doesn't, there will be a breakdown there.
Yeah.
So my challenge is that, men, you can be, you're called to be spiritual leaders. And you've got to be moving in this arena of your faith and growing and engaged. And so, and it makes a big difference when that happens. And so, I'm just saying there's attacks against so many things in all of this, religion is for women and children, whatever you want to do. And this gets handed off generationally because that's a belief. Those are beliefs that are in our culture. And so, just like in the nation of Israel, when they moved into the land of Canaan, they had issues with the culture around them. And constantly they were wooed away to follow the culture around them. And we have that same battle. It's probably the biggest battle we have. And just like in those days where it was, demonic, satanic worship that really they were being pulled away to. I mean, it's those kinds of things that we battle with today. But taking the responsibility and the church impressing this, upon families that this is how it's supposed to work.
Right.
Love it.
Let's do it.
Yep, let's do it.
Yeah.
Well, it's a challenge. Following Jesus, encouraging people to do it. I just encourage parents, it matters how you live your life. If you really grab onto this and follow Jesus, that is going to be the greatest influence because your kids care about what you do more than what you say.
Yeah.
How you live your life matters more than what you teach them. But use the church, back to our whole conversation, use the church as a reinforcement. It matters. The church was created for you to help you grow as a family. So the church can provide ministries that are designed for your kids. It can help through a season that's difficult, junior high and high school. Those are big pieces, So coming to church matters, but you can't just put it all there. You've got to be working your side of it as parents and understanding that God designed parents to do that. So,
Bonus episode.
Bonus round.
Well, thanks for joining us for this bonus episode. I hope that's been helpful and encouraging to you. We believe that God created you as parents to influence your children and to disciple them. We know that God has put this generational connection where grandparents play a significant role as well in supporting and encouraging that. And So we just, our prayer for you is that you would continue to be empowered and that you'd live it out, you'd trust God's process, his plan, and that you would be following Jesus. We know if you are, then you're going to pass off your faith to the next generation. So thanks for joining us for this session and for this series. God bless you. Again, this is Ask the Pastor, Hope Radio 97.1 FM. Have a great day, a great week, and we'll see you next time.